Thank you for everyone for joining. We are, as the slide says here, looking at responsible AI means a single source of the truth. So we're going to be talking about single source of the truth. This will be available on YouTube afterwards, but obviously watching it live, you get the chance to ask all the questions that you need. Just drop them in the chat. Ben is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting today. Single source of the truth. It kind of sits at that crossroads of technology and trust. AI is everywhere at the moment. You can't escape it, especially if you're on Microsoft's mailing list or working with a Microsoft partner. But the organizations who are currently getting the most value from AI aren't really the ones that are chasing the shiny new tools. One of those sort of incredibly boring situations where you have to get your foundations right first. You have to start with something simple. And as you can probably guess from this slide, it's a single source of truth. So why are we talking to you about this? Well, my name's James. I'm head of marketing here at FormusPro. FormusPro have worked closely with Microsoft for years now. We were founded back in 2012, long time ago now, back when my beard was actually red, and actually with just the one goal. So our founder, Glenn Powell, is still founder and CEO, still with the company today. He didn't like how non-profits were being treated within the sector by sort of some of the bigger partners. It wasn't good for the non-profits and it wasn't good for the partners, because a lot of Microsoft organizations can just end up with a non-profit client almost by mistake. You have very unique needs and it can go horribly wrong sometimes. So FormusPro were deliberately set up to push the Microsoft tech stack to the non-profit industry. Everybody that works here, were frustrated. 13, 14 years on, we still work with the non-profit sector, always will. Currently makes up about 55% of our client base. I never really want that ratio to change. May increase. It's never going to go below that. And we give out huge, as does Microsoft, but we give out huge discounts to the non-profit sector and always will. And some of our non-profit clients are our absolute favorite clients. So what do we do? Just quickly, because you're not here to sort of talk about FormusPro, but enterprise development work. We do a lot of data and AI, which is, who doesn't these days, but that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is where Ben's expertise comes in. We do a lot of consultancy. So if you're just not sure about the way forward, because it's a big old scary world out there, we offer that. We do a lot of project rescues and always have. Ben, I'm assuming you've been involved in a few of these, and I'm not going to ask you to name names, but quite often a Dynamics implementation or a Power Platform or an AI implementation, it sounds amazing and it never quite delivers. And actually quite often we'll come along and pick up the pieces and just fix it and get it working again, which I hear is often some of your favorite projects, Ben.
Yeah, and then quite often it's the data that's the problem as well. So
That's
relevant to the day.
that worked really well then. So excellent. Tech support, obviously, what FormusPro never does is just a once and done project. I mean, we will if you really need it, but actually we like long-term relationships, so we can offer software training, we'll offer tech support and continuous improvement once your project has gone live. But we're not just saying this. We've got a lot of non-profit clients: Anthony Nolan, Little Princess Trust, the Holocaust Museum, Rethink Mental Illness, DFE, Down Syndrome Association. We love working with non-profits, and I know a lot of people, it's the reason they come to work. So diving in, just before we get started, one last bit, and I promise, just a big thank you to Microsoft Elevate for helping arrange this and inviting you all to this fantastic organisation, part of Microsoft Philanthropy, with the mission of empowering every person, every organisation on the planet to achieve more, which is a very, very worthwhile goal. You may have remembered them from earlier the year as Tech for Social Impact Team, now rebranded as Microsoft Elevate. And they just want me to get across that, are we building machines to replace people or to help them thrive? Are we trying to create AI that will outsmart humanity or elevate it? At Microsoft, we're putting a clear stake in the ground. We believe in putting AI, in advancing AI by putting people first. And I would say, Ben, that's kind of what I mean, it's not our mission statement, but it's kind of how we treat data and AI projects as well, to support humans rather than replace them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So as I said, I'll send these slides out so we can skip through a lot of these, but Microsoft do put their money where their mouth is worth and give a lot back to the non-profit sector. And Microsoft Elevate themselves are a non-profit. They're actually registered as a non-profit. Moving on and actually getting started, which 6 minutes in, that's not bad. Why are we all here? AI over the last, I say 18 months, it's been around in its current format since November 2022, I want to say, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT. Correct me on that in the chat if you want, but AI has promised a lot of time back. It has promised better decision making. It's promised less admin, all the things that non-profit teams desperately need, of course. But there's been a gap between the promise and reality. And I say this a lot. I've never seen in my entire career a piece of technology that is absolutely so massively overhyped and overpromised, but also at the same time completely underutilized and underused. It's a weird disconnect for me. And there's a lot of people, especially in the non-profit sector, feeling the pain because AI isn't bad, but the information we're feeding into it is messy and it's not ready quite often for AI. I mean, if AI is essentially autocomplete for your decisions, we need to make sure that the data that we're giving it can actually work with, right, Ben?
That's correct, yeah. So I guess if you remember last time we did a webinar, actually, I did some work on showing income from various sources, and that didn't work perfectly what I created there because we had spreadsheets, we had PDFs, we had data stored in Dataverse, and the thing is with spreadsheets as well is the AI is quite bad at actually picking out data from those because it will find something and then it will find something else in another row and relate them together because it can't understand how the data fits together. So you have to understand how that data is working before you get out to have a look at it, essentially. And it's something that everyone faces with multiple systems, multiple spreadsheets, multiple ways of storing things. So absolutely, yeah.
So it's not just it's a fairly common problem then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's legacy systems everywhere, and there's people love using spreadsheets. I'm sure I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. I'm sure
I've got three open
it.
on my laptop right now.
Exactly, and they're all over SharePoint and various places like that. And so your data's everywhere. And because the data's got different columns in each source, AI doesn't really know what the truth is. And there might be, duplicated data as well out there. So it'll bring back two results for the same thing.
No, and the non-profits I've spoke to, I completely agree. Non-profits especially, legacy systems. We talk about legacy systems a lot. What legacy systems normally means, though, is we don't have the budget to upgrade. So it is a common issue, and it's not a failure. It's just the natural outcome of how any organization grows, but especially a non-profit. If something isn't broken, it doesn't matter if there's something better out there. If it's not broken, we're not going to change it. The budget isn't going to be approved for that. So these systems sort of appear as you need them. As Ben points out, suddenly your story is spread out. Well, I mean, my notes actually say spread out across 5 places, but quite often I've spread out over 25, 30 places. And I'm guessing you've seen a lot worse, Ben, not just in SharePoint, but across 2 or 3 different cloud platforms and Excel sheets and Word docs and images and.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about project rescues you've done, and I said data is the problem, and quite often because you don't give the initial piece where you understand what the data is coming from another system, and then that's fragmented or it's looked at in a different way. So
in any AI journey, looking at your data has to be the first step. The non-profit reality, as I've said, most people in the sector are juggling systems that were never really meant to talk to each other. HR might have one view of a person, your CRM is going to have a completely different view, finance is going to have a third, and then fundraising a fourth. And it's kind of like everyone's reading different chapters of the same book, but expecting everyone to agree on the plot. And that's just not how the world works.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going back to the income example I gave earlier, so I'm going to sound about it like a broken record, but I think it's a good example of how we've taken something and moved it on. In that scenario, when someone's using Dynamics, you might have a finance team using Dynamics to keep track of what's actually come in, but you've got a customer service team then, or a team that's responsible for putting stuff on the system, and they're looking in PDFs. That someone's recorded something on Excel because they've been to an event and got some kind of income committed by somebody. And actually, if you ask AI to analyze that, it's not going to be able to do it because it can't see all the data in one place.
No, it's
in one place, but normalized anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't fix the contradictions, how is your AI meant to do any better or give you any kind of? There's a statement, and I don't know if you use it a lot, but garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if your data is garbage, and it doesn't mean necessarily that you're, and this is where people get confused with GIGO. If your garbage, your data is garbage. It doesn't mean that it's bad data. It's probably really useful data that you want to keep, but it may be that there's duplicate copies of it. It may be that it's in the wrong format. It may be that it's being read wrong. And actually, quite often, this is an organization and tidying piece of work rather than let's just get rid of all that. Although I am absolutely sure, Ben, on some of these projects, you have had to just delete swathes of data that isn't relevant or important as well.
Yeah, we take backups, but yeah, remove it from the
It's a little
place where,
cheeky smile there.
yeah, yeah, you need to be careful. But yeah, absolutely remove duplicated data, try and refine everything down.
Awesome. So what does responsible AI even mean? Because we started this, responsible AI starts with a single source of the truth. Why am I linking, or we linking, those two keywords, single source of truth and responsible AI? Because responsible AI is a bit of a buzzword, especially for non-profits. You want ethical, you want responsible AI. And when we use that phrase, what we're really talking about is trust, both for the people using it and the people who are receiving the outcomes of that AI work. And it only works when the decisions it makes are transparent, the data is being held safely, particularly important for non-profits dealing with protected characteristics, the information it draws on is consistent and accurate, and the people using it are firmly in control. It's not there, as we've said, to replace judgment. It's there to give teams a much clearer insight that they and their end users can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, so with the income example, if you say had someone had sent something in via a check and then it was recorded somewhere else as well, like in Dataverse, for example,
Yeah.
you didn't have a way of marking that check had been added to Dataverse or adding in maybe the check number to the record, something like that. The AI wouldn't know that they were the same record and it might duplicate that. So that's one part of what you're talking about where people are getting an answer which doesn't make sense. They've got all this income adding up, and AI is telling you there's actually more that's come in. It's because it's duplicating something. But you've also got on the other side the security of it. So, for example, if you're using something like Copilot Studio, that will only surface answers to people who are actually party to the Dataverse data via security roles or a part of the SharePoint folder that it's getting the data from. So it actually does it for you there with Copilot Studio. So that's kind of your reliable data, but also your trust and your safety of it as well, I think.
For the people on the call, obviously we're saying getting your foundations right is the first step to these projects. And I am well aware this is a how long is a piece of string sort of question, but you can sort of how long is a piece of string? Strings don't normally go over a certain size. Is there a rough amount of time that you would say people should spend on this, or that it should typically take before starting a sort of an AI project? Or is it a case of, oh, I can do this in a day, or can this take months and years?
I think months and years might be overstretching it a little bit, but
Good,
you've got to,
because I was using that as an extreme example, so I'm
yeah,
glad you said that.
you've got to bear in mind if you've got a huge amount of data, if you want to make it, you need to refine that data as much as you can. So it's not something you can do unless you've got only a small amount where it's in a really good place. It's not something you can do in a few days. It's going to take you a few weeks, I would think. But again, months and years, then you're kind of losing the point of AI in the first place, in that you're almost building something from the ground up. So
with a bit of
there's a sweet
dedicated,
spot.
excellent, but with a dedicated time, a week to a few weeks is something that this can easily be done in.
Mhm.
It's good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, a single source of the truth foundation. Let's get right down to the basics, because it's where everything comes together. So, if HR's got one version of the story, as we said, CRM's got your other, your AI's got no idea which one to believe. That's where we end up with hallucinations, inconsistent reporting, and advice that just doesn't match reality at all. Something that I guess we all get frustrated with. Your single source of the truth isn't a buzzword. It's the bit that makes AI behave like a colleague rather than a liability. And something that I wanted to just clarify here, when we're talking about your data, when we're talking about your single source of the truth, we're not necessarily talking about external large language models. We're talking about the agents that you've got running within your own organization. So if you set up Copilot Studio and you build an agent to do X, that's where your single source of the truth is really important. It's not because you want to use Copilot to draft an email or to use ChatGPT to create a Word document. It's when you might have a chatbot that's public facing connected to your SharePoint. That's where you have to get it right. If your data doesn't agree, your AI isn't going to agree either. And I think I'm right there, Ben, but feel free to come in and tell everyone publicly how wrong I am.
No, that's absolutely true. And so it just goes back to what we were saying beforehand. You need to make sure your data is consistent so it knows, but even if it's in different places, as long as it's in the same format, then it will know what it could include and what to read and what to bring back to you.
How does unified data fix this? I mean, how would you sort of go about doing that using the Microsoft tech stack roughly?
So yes, if you had in our example, we've got a lot of spreadsheets, which is, I'm going to keep saying because it's just a good example for people.
It is.
You could use something like a data flow, which is something in Power Platform that you can basically read data from an Excel spreadsheet. As long as you know what format that spreadsheet's in, it can then transfer that maybe to a table in Dataverse. Or if you're getting really fancy, you could actually load stuff directly into Fabric. But that's a topic for another day. But with Dataverse, then you could have one table and all your spreadsheets would just be fed into it every day. And then they'd know that the AI would know that was in the same format. And it could give you reports on, financial reports. It could give you reports on sentiment from surveys, that kind of thing, because it would know that what it was looking at then.
And those are sort of the features of a single source of the truth, but I think it's also important to talk about the benefits a little. Your faster reporting, your clear governance, your safer AI outputs, because once your systems actually do start talking to each other, your teams can as well. Your reporting becomes faster, your governance is a lot more strengthened. That's a terrible sentence. You're able to actually spot risks coming down the road a lot earlier because nothing's hiding in a silo. Predictive analytics actually become a real thing that you can aim for. So when your AI arrives, because of the work you've done, it's working from a clean shared picture rather than stitched together guesswork. And this is again, I'm putting you on the spot here, Ben, but you've worked on a lot of non-profit projects, and I'm not going to ask you to name names, but do you want to give us a couple of examples of time saved or errors reduced or massive problems that a single source of the truth has avoided or saved or solved?
So what you can do is use data, for example, to see which donors have actually contributed the most. So you could have the AI would come back and say this donor gave twice last year, and maybe you want to send them a thank you or possibly contact them again to see if they would like to donate any more. And when it's all combined together, you get an accurate picture of that kind of thing, because you've got, that donor has definitely contributed income twice in the last year. It's not just conflating it and telling you there's a check over here and Dataverse over here, isn't it? And then obviously it's just more trustworthy. It's to actually saving time because you're not double checking everything. You've got all your data in one place.
Just because that was quite a surface level example, I'm assuming we can go a lot more complicated than that, because actually we can then start, a donor that's given twice in a year is great, but I'm presuming we can search for patterns, so dates of timing, link them to holidays, amounts given, linked to birthdays, to if the same donor is giving every single year on the exact same date and it's not their birthday, there may be something there that's worth existing. And so I'm presuming, because we did a previous webinar you may want to go and look up on YouTube, that's actually really useful for this, and it's how to target the different donor personas. And I think we actually created, I think there was about 20 or so. There was a lot of different donor personas there, and how to target them all with AI, but you can't do that unless you get your groundwork right. And I feel kind of like we're just playing a broken record a little bit, but it's all true. You can't do the really cool stuff until, and I don't want to call it the really boring stuff because I'm aware, Ben, this is your day-to-day job, but you can't do the really cool stuff until you've done the foundation. You can't build a house without foundations, right?
Yeah, that's true, and I don't mind you calling it boring. It's data.
It's not boring. Data isn't boring. Data can be fascinating to a data sort of architect. To everyone else, it's a great big sort of Spreadsheet. So we've been referring to a few Microsoft tools. Ben, you've mentioned Dataverse, Fabric,
Yeah.
Purview. I'm actually going to put you on the spot a little bit and just have you talk through them, because this is the bit I think people expect to be really complicated, and also expect us to be a little bit biased because we are a Microsoft partner. However, we're not a Microsoft partner because Microsoft founded us. We're a completely separate organization. We're a Microsoft partner because we chose to work with Microsoft technology because we think it's the best on the market. And actually, they've got a great connected toolkit. Dataverse is where your tools live, so your data lives. Dynamics sits on the top. Power Platform is there for the automation. Fabric is there to give you the full picture. Purview's there for your security. But I'm just giving you a surface level. Do you want to just quickly sort of just a few sentences on each layer and how they're going to help sort of everyone on the call, Ben?
Yeah, sure. So Dataverse I've mentioned a few times already. I would say it's not just a database. There's probably some consultants out there who'd say, "Oh no, it does this, that, and the other." But the purposes of this, though, it's a series of tables. So imagine you're in Excel and you've got lots and lots of tabs. It's
That's
like
exciting.
that. It's like that.
It's
But
Excel with tabs.
but it's in the cloud, So it's just tables, columns, and rows of data essentially, where you
Can
can
somebody
store
on the
things. Hmm?
Sorry, go on. I was going to say, can somebody on the call just remind me not to let Ben write marketing copy? It's It's an Excel spreadsheet with
Well,
tabs.
well, okay, but in the cloud, and it's the foundation, it's the database on which all the Microsoft
Yes.
stacks founded, essentially for our side anyway. So you've got Dynamics 365, that's got CE, so that's customer experience, F&O, finance and operations, a Business Central, which is more of a lightweight version of finance and operations. Essentially, they're a suite of apps which help you with sales, marketing, customer services, HR, that kind of thing. There's a whole range there. Power Platform, you can build your own model-driven apps, which is what Dynamics 365 is, or Canvas apps, which are more kind of bespoke apps that you can enter. So by apps, I mean it's a user interface to enter data into and get data out of, essentially, and form processes with business logic, that kind of thing. You can also use Power Automate there to integrate with other services. And I should say Dynamics 365 can be extended as well with code and what have you to integrate with other services too. Fabric is Microsoft's solution to bring all data together. You can get any type of data, no matter whether it's structured, unstructured, into Fabric, and you can manipulate it to make it into reports. The idea is mainly to use it Power BI, but it can be pushed elsewhere so that you can use it in other places too. And then Purview, it's kind of a safety and governance thing. It helps with data governance, data security, documents, compliance and risk management. It does things like automatically categorize documents into security groups in SharePoint, for example. So that's kind of your roundabout way of getting data in, and then how you deal with it, manipulate the data so it can actually be read on the other side.
And my two favorite points about it is, one, you don't need to deal with 10 different organizations and 15 different vendors because it's the Microsoft tech stack. It's all in one place and will automatically just work with Outlook tools, Outlook, Word, Teams, Excel, the tools that your teams are already using because, let's face it, it's Microsoft. And my favorite bit is because of the work Microsoft have been doing with AI, every single one of these have AI built in with Copilot and Copilot Studio that you can extend yourself to your own business needs, but all have basic AI. So a lot of people ask me to sort of tell them the difference between Copilot, Microsoft's AI, and something like Claude or ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, I tend to say, is very tall. It does a lot within that one sort of chatbot that you can talk to. Copilot is a lot more dispersed. So there'll be a Copilot for Dataverse, there'll be a Copilot for CRM, a Copilot for BC, a Copilot for Power Automate, a Copilot for Fabric, and they are all very hyper focused on just helping you. And it drives me crazy, and I say this on so many calls, although I am probably showing my age a little bit. I hate the fact that Microsoft called it Copilot. They should have named it Clippy, because that's basically what it is. It's just a little tool that pops up and helps you on each of these, backed by quite strong AI. Do you, when you're using sort of Dataverse or the Power Platform of Fabric, are you using Copilot a lot, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely, because it saves me time as well. So if I'm writing some code or something and I've got a pattern, then I'll just say, can you expand on this to do this, this, and this? And it might not get it right the first time, but just giving me a template then to work with and then build upon. So
I don't know if
absolutely.
this will mean anything to everybody on the call, but I am now going to refer to you as a vibe coder going forward forevermore.
Okay.
Thumbs up if you know what a vibe coder is. Let's try and bring this all together. When your systems are sharing this data foundation, the whole organization can move forward as one. Information captured in HR links into your CRM, which is then tied neatly into your finance, which then ties neatly into sort of much wider reporting for the board. That connected picture means AI tools that you introduce aren't guessing, they're not filling in gaps, they're working from a single source of trusted events, your foundational layer. So, I mean, what might be helpful here, Ben, is just bringing this all together. Do you want to just talk us through a really simple scenario, start to finish, where a single source of the truth really just actually makes everything a lot easier?
Yeah, so actually, a good example is talking about Dynamics, which I just spoke about, where you've got sales, customer service, and it's called Customer Insights Journeys, but it's their marketing module. So you get a lead from somewhere, and then you could market to that lead, but also you could convert that lead to an opportunity and sell to them. When you've sold to that person, they're now a contact, and that contact can be seen by customer service. So if they get a phone call, they can see it. It can be seen by marketing, so they can send them out some marketing material again. And obviously, it can be seen by sales. So salesmen might ring them up a year later when their contract's expiring. But because that's all in one place for people, also for AI, if any of those people on all those different modules they're using ask the same questions to AI, they're going to get the same answer because maybe slightly phrased slightly differently, but have the same content because all the data is in one place essentially. So that would make it easy for finance to build a report on anything that's been done across customer service or marketing or sales, for example.
And the cynical bit is quite often a lot of departments are trying to justify not the use of AI, but the cost of AI and why money needs to be spent on it. But actually, you get your basics right, everything just becomes a lot easier to quantify, and you can actually start showing off the value. It's not abstract anymore once you do this. It becomes a reality that you can then go and say, no, look, I've saved X amount of time or I've saved X amount of admin. So we want to start with some practical steps. This is the bit where Ben really shines. And this is where we normally just sort of farm him out and say, get him on calls. And if anybody does want to speak to Ben after this, I'm happy to give out his private mobile number. Feel free to call him up at 10 o'clock this evening. I'm sure he'll love you for that. We did want you to, we didn't want to just talk about the theory because actually we could have done that in 10 minutes. Single source of truth, right, done, move on. Getting ready for AI, it doesn't have to be this great big dramatic thing. It actually is just a series of small steps. And I want you to sort of jump in and actually offer your own advice here, making sure I'm sort of on point. But understanding the data you have, understanding where it lives, who owns it, who looks after it, who maintains it, and who keeps it clean. From there, especially for a non-profit, you want to have conversations about your ethical oversights, what is safe to experiment with, what isn't, what needs protecting, what doesn't. And then you do that, you're probably a good, 60-70% of the way there already, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got, I mean, you might have a lot of data in a lot of different places and it seems quite daunting, but actually, if you get together and have a think about what you actually want that data to do and what you want the outputs to be, you can then say to everyone who's got their individual bits of data, can you actually kind of map this into what this output needs to be? And it breaks it down into an easy kind of, not bite size, but quite small chunks then for people. You can then have a look and see if there are duplicates and remove them. And then, as James says, you work out who the owners are, you put a little bit of governance in place. And once you've done that, it doesn't take long to get that data together. I said earlier it might take a week or a few weeks, but that's for a lot of data. It could be less than that. And so it's about breaking things down into bite-sized chunks essentially, and just working towards one common aim with standardized data.
Yeah. It's a good point because we've spent the last sort of like 40 minutes telling everybody that the single source of the truth is their foundation. It's where they should start. Actually, taking a step even further back than that and starting with your goals is probably even a better sort of start. And so, let's not get ready for AI by sort our data. It's right. What do we want AI to do? Now we have that. What data do we need to accomplish that?
Yeah, absolutely. I with a lot of software, I kind of work from the end backwards. So I like to understand what the goals are before I work out what we need to input into it. It doesn't necessarily mean you can just get rid of any data that doesn't fit your goal, but it gives you a starting point and something to aim for.
You just drop that in a lake somewhere, right? We'll use that later. But this is what this is what Dataverse is great at. But the point we're both trying to make here is this is eminently achievable. It's not just rip everything out and start again from scratch and start collecting data all over again. It's actually just a tighten up what you already do and what you already have. And once it's all done, what does success actually look like? And for me, it's success should be shown up in the day aspects, and Ben may agree or disagree or may have his own examples. For me, your reporting should get a lot clearer, decisions should get quicker, and you can see this is replicating those sort of first sort of slides that we talked about. Errors are fading away because everyone's talking the same information. AI becomes something people are trusting rather than are wary of, and what you never want is a conversation going, oh yeah, that's AI generated, I'm just going to manually check that. You want people to just accept it, and whilst there needs to be a level of human insight, actually you can't, if you're going to double check everything AI does, there's no point using it in the first place. You want that confidence instilled in your team, and this is the work that creates that.
Yeah, absolutely. So and to back up what you're saying, for me, I've seen things speed up so much. So the example with the income again, once you've normalized that, instead of someone going in and having to check lots of different data sources every month and spending 2 or 3 days reporting on income, actually they can actually supply something to the person who wants the report, and they can query it with natural language and get the figures back directly. So you're just saving people so much time there and freeing them up to do much more work they need to do. So.
Yeah, it's much more calmer, more transparent sort of solution where your AI is actually lifting the pressure instead of adding to it. So if you want to sort of reach out to myself, to Ben, to FormusPro themselves, you can sort of get in touch with us there on LinkedIn. I'm just going to leave this slide on the screen for a minute or two for you all to sort of snap and connect with us. Ben, as much as I've been joking, Ben is very happy to talk to you about your data and AI. Goes with the job title. I am as well. If you want to work with FormusPro, absolutely brilliant. Reach out and we'll see what we can do for you. If you just need to have a chat about data and know where to start, you know what, we're really happy to just do that as well. Just reach out and we can even do a bit of a system health check for you. We are, if you scan the QR code on this slide, we're running a webinar in January about how AI can actually boost your non-profit HR function. Feel free to sign up for that one now. If not, this is the point where I hand over to Ben and say, look, is there any questions, as technical or as complicated as you want? You've got us for the next sort of 10. If not, you can all have sort of 20 minutes back, and well, thank you for joining. There is a couple of questions, Ben, so I'm just going to go through those quickly. So Ben, you say Dataverse is a database. How is it related to or compares with SQL servers?
It's based on SQL originally, but it's more of a UI skin over the top of it. So instead of looking through SSMS or something like that, or bringing data in from a SQL server actually into Dataverse, more readily available for you to use within model-driven apps, essentially. I hope that helps. It's based on the same thing. It's just slightly different.
It's the same thing, but it's different. It's the that's the best technical answer I've ever heard. Is there any other Q&As? If not,
I hope that helped.
I'm sure it did. I'm just waiting to see if anybody drops anything in the chat or in the Q&A again. I'll just wait sort of 30 seconds. If not, everyone go and get some lunch, and we'll see you in January. Thank you all.
All right.